Hold on. We didn't hear the recording started thing, so I probably had the speakers off. That's always good. So the first thing I have on your handout is a call log. How many of you use the call log in your transactions? A little bit. Not too long ago, you had a speaker presentation from Pearl on risk reduction, right? And I wasn't there, but did he say who typically wins lawsuits? Documentation. So back up your calls with something. So one of the things you have in here is what's called a call log. So when you bring up your transaction, you can go over here to call log and hit add. And I called seller name. Whatever it might be, and put in my message that I have and then save it. And I've got this log that I had this conversation with this person at this time. Call log, you just hit add. Because you don't have anything there until you add and log a call. So that's on your page 1 of an arrow by click on add and then put it in and then click on save. It automatically dates it. So it dated and timed it when I created it. So you've got that evidence in there too. Better is also follow up with an email. You know, this is just a summary of our conversation that we had. Because sometimes I've had sellers say, I know I talked to them about that. And, you know, this might help you with that documentation if you don't have time for the other. Probably best is an email saying, you know, this is just a summary of our conversation. Let me know if you have any questions, blah, blah, blah. On page 2, we talk about the fax back cover sheet. How many of you used the fax back cover sheet? Anybody? Years ago? So if you go to documents, every time you create a new transaction, and this one's probably buried because I put other things in it, it automatically creates this fax back cover sheet. The reason this could be used is, let's say you have a consumer somewhere that is out of town, is not comfortable with electronic signatures, but has access to a fax machine. You could email them this fax back cover sheet and the documents. They could print them, sign them, and fax them back to you. When they use this fax back cover sheet, they'll land in your documents in that transaction file. I would test it if you want to try it. So you can go to our machine, fax it to yourself using that. The other thing you could create is you could create a transaction here is just label it my faxes. Don't pull in a template or anything, and it'll create a PDF cover sheet that if in general you want someone to fax you something, then it'd come in, because over the weekend, you guys will not get faxes from us because we don't have printed faxes anymore. They just go into our front desk email because it's used so rarely. We have seen no reason to have that kind of expense. But if you need something that way, there's an alternative for you. It'll come directly to you. Questions on that? Wendy asked, does everybody know what a fax machine is? So like we talked in our contract meeting today about high-speed internet, and I said it's all relative. What's high speed? Those of us who had dial-up wait for it to connect. I know you have probably never heard that sound. I need to record that. All right, I'm going to close that. The next thing I have you on your agenda, which you're probably all familiar with, is printing, emailing, signing forms and or documents. Just a reminder, I can select everything in here by hitting the select all button. And then from there, I can hit the basket to do whatever function that I want to do. And I just realized I'm going to have to go into this differently at the end, or I won't have all the functions because I'm impersonating Melissa, so I didn't have the signing option. So I have to go in a different way to have the signing option, but those are all there, whatever you want to do with them. If you send a form on your page 3, my recommendation, let me close this and just select one thing. So one of the things I teach our new agents is when you first start working with a buyer to email them some things. So your, when they sign off on the lead-based paint disclosure and radon disclosure, it states you have provided them with these brochures. If you hand them to them, what proof do you have? If you email them, you have the proof. So if I select the lead-based paint brochure and the radon brochure, and you may decide you want to include more in there, and I click on the basket, I can now email them to that consumer. I can just select the recipient email based on my contacts. You know, if I want to carbon copy myself, so I see when they get it itself, you can put CC you, and Melissa's going to get this because she's in here as a selling agent. Change your subject. Lead, oops. Lead and radon brochures. And I would merely say in my message something, please review these as one of the decisions you're going to have to make when we write an offer on a property is what inspections do you want? Lead and radon are one of those possibilities, and here's some brochures for you to read about those 2 inspections. When you send them, I encourage you to send them as a link versus an attachment. When they click on the link, you'll get an email saying they've opened it. You know, they've done that. Sometimes attachments get really large as well too. So once I hit this and hit send, and I don't have this in instructions, but if you go to history, you've got right here, documents emailed. And if I click on that, it tells me exactly what was sent to them. So you have, again, in that whole history in this transaction, I did send those. If they ever came back to you and say, I didn't ever get those, you have that documentation within that transaction. Questions, Wendy?
Does anybody else send those as they apply with the buyer's offer and have them initial the first page? I just do. And I keep those in, you know, I put them all at the end for my documents that I don't send on to the other agent.
The problem I see with your combining them with your offer. No, that wasn't the problem. Is if I'm out and I get that offer back signed and I want to forward that signature on to the other agent, then all of that's part of that one link. And when I get it back, if I need to do it, I have to separate it out versus just having the offer be it and the disclosures all by themselves. Plus, by sending them early on, they can think about, do I want these inspections or not? Yes.
I would say 8 out of 10. I always have a buyer's consultation.
Right.
And I put that in I put them in my packet. And I explained it to them then. Would you still suggest that I send that to them?
I'm not saying you have to. It's all about, we're talking about risk reduction. It's all about documentation. So you have the documentation. If you do it the same way all the time and you know you do it all the time, then if you ever got challenged, say, this is how I process, I have this packet I put together and all the buyers get it. And I'm not saying you'll get challenged on this particular item. I'm just giving a way that you have the history and the documentation. Okay. Watermarks. So if I go to forms, I'll just pull up the sales contract, for instance. I go to file, watermark, this is where I can put draft on. So if I wanted to send this to a buyer, please review this contract. You know, maybe early on when we first start working together, this is what we'll be writing offer on that. And I do it in their transaction, so it has their name at the bottom, and there's something psychological about that. If you don't have time for that, you could actually create a buyer's file that just are draft documents and have them all in there as drafts. Just make sure you update them each year when new contracts come out. They would have your name on it, but no buyer's name on them. And then you can always just keep them as drafts and have that ready to send out at any point in time if you don't have a transaction desk file ready. Yeah, having their name at the bottom. Yeah. Then when I'm ready to use this, you have to remember to go to File, Watermark, and Remove. So I've gone to write an offer. Oh, I got to take that draft off of there. So when you send it out to be signed, it doesn't say draft all over it. Any questions on that one? When I'm proofing offers, what I see not done a lot is this next section on contract details. What I find, don't look guilty, you're doing good. What I find is people sometimes enter their contacts. Sometimes I find they're forgetting to enter their contacts and they keep having to add their email addresses every time they send out an email. So that should be the first place you go to, is make sure your clients are in here. But then when you go to write the offer, entering that information in details. Details populates so many other things and saves you time and helps us. So if I scroll down here, the very next place I should go to is how much are they offering on this house? How much earnest money, which is my earnest money field, which reminds me, when the contract says a minimum of 1%, if you're writing 210, you don't need to write 2,100. I mean, you can, but it's approximately that. Don't worry about getting exactly 1% of the offer price on earnest money. And scrolling down to the offer date. Now it would be today. What date did we offer? When does it expire? The time is not carrying over to the contract, so don't even use that field right now. I keep working on that. When is my closing date? And my funding date is when I want loan approval. So when you enter, oops, somehow I went forward, have my, and it can't have funding date that far ahead. Then once it's accepted, of entering that acceptance date. You know, what date was this offer actually accepted? I know I have a future date out there, but that then makes other areas, whether it's your transaction information form, whether it's the form itself, all of that will auto-populate all of those things. It also makes, if you're using, and I think I have checklist on here, the checklist, it'll make all that work as well too. So don't skip the details. In the details, the devil's in the details. So just keep remember details, details, details. That's where I need to go before I start writing an offer, because it doesn't backfill the other way. If you let on the contract, it doesn't backfill into the details area. If you need to change this file name, now our staff does it. There's a few agents that won't let us touch their file names. But typically we change this. Let's say I got this accepted offer on Moss to Moss. And I didn't even have to comma, 1121 West. Did I write the right address? Nope. And then the pending date of 03/11/22. Part of why we do that is if you ever use the print to the system, if you ever use a virtual printer on a PC, if you've had a house listed and closed and listed and closed, you can find the right file you need to send and print that document to. Especially as you list things and repeat them. Am I going to the right transaction? That's part of why we have that information in there, pending date or closing date and that kind of thing. So you can identify the right property, because we expect you to have that transaction again. Anytime you do that, just hit that check mark to save. Also in contacts, if you enter your title company and lender information, then you always have that right there. Let's say down the road, buyer calls you, who was my title company? on this, you don't have to go searching anywhere. It's right in your contacts. So I encourage you to add those other service providers so you have a one-stop for down the road when who did my house inspection? Who did whatever? Just take a couple minutes and add them in contacts. And if you save them when you add them, so if I already in contacts, add, create a new contact, it gives you all kinds of drop-down menus for different people. If you need another category created, just let me know. This is self-populated. We can add the different contacts in there. But if you save them then to your address book, that same person will be there for you in the future. It'll be a very quick, easy way to add it. Okay, make sense? Under forms, this transaction information form, when you enter those different details, a lot of this will auto-populate for you. So if you have the listing date in there, your acceptance date and all of that, there's not much work you have to do to this form in order to get it ready to go to sales to let them know you have a new pending. It is extremely important for our accounting department and all that to have the correct information on this form to enter it. There are things that won't necessarily complete on here, such as is it financed or cash, so there's different buttons you have to select there. We are in the process of slightly altering this, not much. Thank you to Rodney for proofing. Working on a couple things to add some required fields that the staff needs in order to process it as a sold property, such as seller relocating zip code. If the seller was an investor or an estate or those kind of things, what zip code do we need to put in there that we know what that answer is? The mortgage type. In fact, one of the things I was playing with before I came down here to try to make that a drop-down menu that you can select. I know, that's mine before I send it off. I'm trying to see if we get that populated. That it's a drop-down menu. You can select the mortgage type versus have to type something in. And then just remember this information down here, that if we're going to send a survey for you for testimonial tree, who do you want us to send it to? You probably know of your buyers, which one's more likely to fill it out than the other, or your seller. Use that field to tell us who do you want us to direct that survey to? Do you want to use that client follow-up program? But once you do that, you can just email sales and let them know that this is ready. I have a new pending and all the information is in here. Our goal is to go paperless, and you will see now, let me save and exit this for a minute. In our statuses now, we have closed file, e-file only, active, e-file only, pending, e-file only, which means we do not have a physical file in our office on that transaction. Everything was done. You guys did it all electronically. We see no need for us to print the paperwork, but it tells us right away we've got this only electronically. See our filing cabinet starts shrinking. Another helpful tool, if you're not using it in forms, if you fill out that information in details, is this realtor lender title contract date timeline. How many of you used that one? Lots of hands go up. Yay, I'm preaching to the choir. So by putting those dates in, it'll auto-populate this sheet. Obviously, it doesn't know if the deadline is a Saturday. It's always early to have something done early than late. But you can always go to file, save this as a PDF, and I email it off to my client. If I have a lender, I send it to the lender. If it's on the buyer side, here are the dates that we need to be paying attention to get things done. The checklist. How many are using the checklist that we've created? Just a few. All right, let's look at that. I'm going to here to checklist. And there's already one in here, so I won't add another. But if this were a new checklist that I'm adding, I'm going to hit add and add checklist. And is this a new listing of mine? It gives you tasks and things to remember to do on your listing. Is this a pending that's a list side of mine or a sales side of mine? Select the appropriate one and hit apply. It'll ask you, do you want to add all of the items? And those screenshots are on your pages in your handout. But once that's created, all of these items will be here for you. It will send you a reminder the day before, and it's actually almost 2 days before, because I think it tells you to do a day before it really is, which is okay, don't panic. I always just go here, am I off a day or what? And once I know I've done it, I just simply hit the hourglass and know that that's been completed. If you change dates, like on this one, I changed some of those dates, and automatically updates your checklist. So if you move your closing date, it'll automatically change the dates of when things have to be done before closing. So I have programmed this to say so many things are due on acceptance, or like this one is 1 day after acceptance date. So some things are after your acceptance. We've added, remember to order your inspections, order the termite, where the realtor checklist is only that they've been completed when the due dates are. This helps remind you that I've got to get them ordered. Don't forget to do that portion of it. And if I keep scrolling, all of these are after, but then you get in so many days that are due before closing. So it can be programmed either way, so many days after a date or so many days before a date or due on a certain date. But times are busy. We had an agent recently miss an inspection deadline by a day. They helped pay for a radon installation as well as other repairs on the property. It's up to the seller, you know, when you present it to them where they want to go with that. And so we just want to have systems in place that help you not miss those deadlines. When you're on your dashboard, one of the things you could add to this, if I wanted to, was, let me find checklist. Did I already have it on there? I don't. And I may not, because I'm impersonating an agent, but one of these items are your checklist, and you can just have them all on your screen showing the bars across to remind you of what needs to be done. Any questions on utilizing that? Okay. Adding documents. Let me go back. Just remember, when you add documents, you can drag and drop, you can upload them one at a time, whichever way you want to get them into transaction desk. So if I have them like on my desktop, let me minimize this a little bit. Well, that didn't work out. Hold on. Oh, wait. If I want to drag this into there, I can just drag and drop whatever into that function versus uploading them. The light bulb's going. If I had several things in here, let me minimize this for a second, go back to add a new document. I could highlight all of these if I have them together and move them over all at once. It makes it much quicker for you to move things. Anything though that you have signed electronically, and I don't have one in here, you know, has the lock beside it. So you know that's been signed. Electronically, what I have at the bottom of your page 8 is remember on add, If I add a new document, if you're on an iPad or anything, the only way to do it is through a cloud type thing because there is no upload on an iPad or that kind of device. Yes.
You can upload it from your email if you've got the app on your phone.
You can, yeah, and you can actually upload it, which is next on page 9 on email. If I go to email right here, it gives me an email address to email it to. So if you want to, on your page 9, I show I can copy this email link. And if I want to on mine, I can just open whatever email client I have. So let me attach something. We'll do this. I'm going to take out all the peripheral things, so it just is that document, and hit send. So in here, it should say, let's see how fast it comes. It will say Sandy Myers listings. See how fast it gets there. See it yet? Don't see it yet, but it should be there pretty soon. And so another way to get that there. Slicing documents. This is what I mentioned to Wendy. If you have all this stuff and you're going to send it off to somebody else, that other agent, you don't want all those brochures. Same thing with, I see signings done that have your buyer's agency documents that should have been done way back here when you first start working with them, not now when you're writing an offer as part of your offer. If you waited till then, please do it separately than part of your offer. To me, the offer should be the offer and disclosures, and that's it. And make it very simple for the other agent. Let me see if there's anything. Yeah, I can use this multiple offer negotiation guide. Just remember, this is also in here on every file you start with us. We have this automatically in documents. So if you want to send this to your new buyers in this market, chances are you're going to see a multiple offers situation. Here's a guide of what might happen in those situations with multiple offers. So if I want to slice this up, I'm going to hit the 3 dots and go over here to slice and markup and click on slice. So this, if this was an offer with multiple type pages and I only want to send the other agent 2 of them, I typically take those out, or I click on the 2 I want, and then you can hit save the selected pages, save as something, and offer on 1, 2, 3 green, whatever it might be. And I'm only saving those pages. And then save. The other will still be there, but then you have just those pages and what you can send off in your documents and save that way. The other option is trashing those, removing those pages, and now save as versus I don't want to save it because then I'd lose my original, and I could do it that way. So either way you want to do it, you could accomplish some of the same thing. Close this, yes. So now in my documents, offer on Green Street's only going to contain those 2 pages that I saved when I named it offer on Green Street. Any questions on that? Same thing with merging. So there are times I've had to fix like 1 page of a contract, maybe page 1 that we need revised for some reason. And rather than have sent the whole offer, I just send page 1 and then merge them together. So now I have a document that goes from page 1 to whatever, that's all as one of how the accepted offer is. So on merging them, let's say I'm going to merge the real estate service provider list and this offer list. I'm going to click on my basket, and then one of your choices here is merge these together. Anybody merge documents together? A few? Maybe it's not. So I'll just hit merge. What do I want to name this document? Updated offer, and then where do I want to place it? And I'll just hit merge document. So now it's taken those other things and merged them into one. So if you get someone from another company that maybe sends you an offer in Pages, you could merge that together as one. So I show you that. Creating folders. So one of the things you will see now in your documents, every time you create a new transaction, are a couple of folders that are automatically created. One are compliance checklist staff only folder. So we have made the compliance checklist that our staff uses into an interactive form. So our goal for them is they're going to go into forms. Sure, there's nothing in chat here. See if I've added it here. I don't think I have. I will add that form. So all of this auto populates for them, so they don't have to fill out all the information. They can start marking what you've turned in. They can start marking that they've uploaded things to transaction desk, et cetera, on this form. They will then save this. We're having a little issue with how it worked for me and how it's working for them, but they should be able to send it right to documents and put it in the folder. But for some reason on my test, it worked. And when I did it with staff, it's not working. So I've got to figure out why it's not working the correct way. That's my next trouble ticket to them. But the goal will be then each time they save it, it will be in this folder under compliance checklist with what's been done so far, a date and their initials. So I know what staff has marked things off. You could at any time look at and see what you're missing on your file. And then it'll just keep getting updated in there. So again, if we have a snow day, they can work right from here instead of their checklist, what in the file is sitting on their desk on a paper file. So again, my goal is getting them total paperless, but I want that folder to be just used for those compliance checklists. The other one is signing certificates. I don't know about you, but you get so many signing certificates. So I just automatically created a folder for you. So let's pretend these were all signing certificates. I could click on whatever they were, go to my basket and move them to that signing certificate folder. So they're not cluttering up all my other documents. Really encourage you to use folders. It's at your bottom of page 11. And all you have to do is hit add new folder. So I use one for buyer docs for when I get my initial buyer paperwork signed. I have one that usually on my files, it's named inspections and invoices. So I have all those kind of things grouped together. I'm not looking through all these documents. I can put them in these folders. Before I forget it, with the new Authenticign, since it's going to be mandatory for everybody soon, make sure you go to settings over here on the left. Go to program settings. Shoot, hold on. I got to get in here a different way. I'm sorry. Oops. Hi, everybody. When I impersonate people, it only likes certain things certain ways. Try a different way. While I'm doing this and getting back in, the reason I'm having you do this is with the new Authenticign, for every signing you do, unless you change the setting, it's going to create a new folder for every signing. And I don't think you want that. So I'm just impersonating a different way, and I should be able to see the signing settings part. Settings, program settings, Authenticign settings, I believe. Yes, change this instead of a new folder to the root folder. If you have it set in a new folder, for every signing you do, it's going to create its own folder. So the only thing that'll be in that folder is that signing. You got folder, 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 folder. So I'll go backwards. I went over to the left to settings, then program settings, Authenticign settings, and then change it to place in the root folder and then update. Otherwise, again, every new signature you do is going to create a new folder in your documents for just that signature. So let's say you do 3 sales contract change forms. There's going to be a new folder every time in your documents for sales contract change form, change form, change form. So on the next page, I show you how to move things and how to do folders. On your page 13, let's talk about duplicating a file. I'll go to this listing practice. So one of the reasons why you cannot use this file over again is once it's pending, it's synced to the back office system. So if we pretend this is a pending transaction that has fallen through, if it's your, let's say it was your pending listing, you start off with a listing folder, you don't want to lose all your listing docs, move them, all of those things, you could duplicate this file. So if I duplicate it, I'm going to hit these 3 dots and click duplicate. And just let it be named that. I want to reset my checklist items because if I had a checklist started, because that was for an old transaction, and save it. So here in my contacts, I wouldn't have lost like my seller's contact information, some of those things. I might need to remove who sold it and some information like that. I might need to remove some things from documents, but my original documents, as far as the listing contract, all of that would still be here. We can bomb the other one that has that old pending in it, but keep my other folder. The other time we've used this is, let's say you're listing 5 lots in a subdivision and the seller's all the same. A lot of the information is the same. You can create the first one and just keep duplicating it and just fix a few things for that specific lot. It will save you time in those instances. Page 14, dual agency. This is your listing and you're going to sell it to a buyer. Had an open house, met the buyer at the open house. You want to sell it. You could go to the 3 dots, apply template. And one of your choices is dual agency sale. And it will bring in the pending documents into that listing file. So it'll bring in the sales contracts and the things you need for the buyer side into the one file. So you don't have to have a buyer file and a listing file. They can all be in one. Now you may have already started your buyer file. And if that's the case, then maybe move what they've signed to that. And you can get rid of the other one, or wait till it's closed to make sure it closes and then get rid of it. But then you don't have two files that you're maintaining, one for your buyer, one for your seller, when you're a dual agent on that transaction. I'm not going to load it on here, but if I put that in, pull that in, it will bring in all those, the offer and all of those things. Okay, new house, same buyer. Let me see if I have one in here that has a buyer in it. Selling 101. Let's bring in a house. So another thing I see people missing is importing the listing. Make sure you always select the right property type. Anybody have an MLS listing you want me to use? I'll just pick this one. I have no idea what it is. If it's active, pending, what? So we'll just use it. Now let me search for one. So we're going to pretend my buyer has written an offer on this house. And unfortunately, in today's market, there are multiple offers and they didn't get it. Okay. What I would do in documents, I would make a folder and name this rejected offer on, what was this property? 8214, that's all I can read. So I'll just put 8214. But whatever that property, move everything in my documents that has to do with that house into that folder for that buyer. So unfortunately, you might have several of these if you've lost out on other houses. But now I found one they're going to write an offer on. So I'm going to go back to here and import the data. Again, residential. We'll just pick a different MLS number and import it. So what it's going to tell you, hey, there's different listing agents already here, or sellers, do you want to remove them? Say yes. You used to have to, and this is on your page 15, you used to have to go delete those contacts, then import the new listing. Now it's all one process. You just import the new one, tell them to delete them, and now you have the new house in here. One of the things I encourage you to also do before you write an offer, notice how we have disclosures. I don't know if there's any others in here. I am trying really hard to get our staff, when they put it in, to put the property name in here and have one file for disclosures. I'll keep trying to promote that through the association. But when they're imported in, you know what these disclosures are. So check this first. I always look at them. This is the one on Robertson Road, the one I was on before. So I'm going to move that one to that other file. This one hopefully is on Decor Divide. Yep. So now I want to rename this. So I'm going to hit those three dots and hit Properties Rename, Decor. And rename it. So now when I go to write my offer and I go to pull the disclosures, I know I'm pulling the right disclosures as part of this offer. Then I just have on, if you have duplicated this, make sure you check property details for the purchase price and look the offer on. Anything you typed in, such as what appliances were going to stay, that kind of thing, you'd have to fix, but you'd have to do that anyway, but just check it over carefully. Okay, now the part that Rodney's been waiting for. Creating and using off-and-assign layouts. Brand new section on page 17. So what I would do, let me go back to the beginning. I'll just go through the whole thing. I want you to create a transaction and name it seller template. And you could, so I've done several. I've done one that includes the sales contract amendments and financing because quite often they're all together. But then I have one that's just the sales contract only because if you have a cash offer or no amendments, that may be all you have. So you may want to create multiples of these. Okay, so in this case, we'll just do it for time, residential contract. And that's the only one we're going to work on. Use the template, the buyer packet, residential condo. Put you as a listing agent. Because remember, we're doing this as you, the listing agent for this template. I know we're pulling a buyer file, but it's to create a template for when you're the listing agent. And hit create. You guys are all doing good. Look at all those transactions you're creating. Do you see my screen all light up? That's what I get if I'm working and you guys are working. They're working. So why do you got that? We're going to go to contacts. And we're going to add a new transaction contact as a seller. And the first one, we're going to name it seller 1. We don't need an email address. And I'm going to hit save. And then we're going to create seller 2. Yes. No, first name I put seller, last name I put 1. This one I'm going to name seller 2. And save. Everybody got seller 1, seller 2? Like thing 1 and thing 2? You guys were thinking it right. Okay, we're going to go to forms. Right here. Select the residential sales contract on the bottom of your page 17. Oops, hold on. I messed myself up. I want to select it, not click on it, and hit the basket. And I want to create a PDF. So I'll do that again because I screwed up myself. Hit the select button. I even have it written. I just didn't read it myself. Select it, hit the basket, and hit PDF. Click on send to DocBox, which will put it in your documents. And if you want to rename this, you can. I just left mine residential sales contract, or you can name it seller sales contract template. Oops. And save that. Okay. And just to double check, we can go to documents. And there's my sales contract template that I just created. Okay. We're now going to go to signings. Create a new signing by hitting add. Old one expires in 13 days, folks. If you're still using the old one, you better be switching before it's 13 days and you go, I don't know how to use the new one. And I won't be around that week. So Yeah, FYI, be working remotely. And I'm gonna name the signing name seller template residential sales contract. Okay. Hit save. You should be here. And I didn't show you every screenshot of this because you guys have used some of this before, but we need to add that document. So I hit add and we're going to scroll through and find that sales contract template that you created. And I'm going to hit add. And close this. And I know this seems like a lot of steps, but when you're done with this, you're going to love it. When you have the next offer on your listing. I promise. Okay, we're going to go to my signers. And we need to add my seller 1 and seller 2. So from the transaction, I'm going to add seller 1, seller 2, and select them. Have I got that so far? We're going to click on tools and initial pages. See where it says initial pages? Page 20. I selected small. They have to go on the right-hand side at the bottom of the document. And both people, if I have 2 sellers, will have to initial. And we're going to select this and all pages. So on the sales contract, there are initials on all pages. If you pull in and do one for like your financing amendment, the last page doesn't have initials on it. So you just say page 1 and page 2, or you can delete them later. So once you have all that done, hit place initials. You then need to scroll through and move these because I don't know exactly where our lines are. So just go ahead and move these on each line so they look pretty. Move these here. Once. Yep. This is setting up a template that I can then go apply, and it'll put these everywhere we need them to do, just like the buyers are. It will be for your sellers. Because you're always going to have a PDF normally, unless you're the listing agent and selling agent. Typically, what you're going to have from the other agent is the offer from them and as a PDF, right? That they sent to you. Okay, so we got all the initials placed, right? Now we need to go to the signature area. So I am setting this up as either an offer or a counter offer because they're going to sign the same place, not an offer rejected. When they reject it, I don't need to initial all these pages. It's pretty easy. So my seller 1, move this down a little bit. I'm going to move to sign here. I'm going to, in this case, the date, move it down. The auto time, I'm going to put it over in the right spot. On the present address of the seller, I'm going to put a text box there to make them fill that out. And I don't have to. Oops, I don't copy that. Yeah, I can. So if you heard at a business meeting, title companies are requiring this information on the contracts. So this makes it easy when your seller fills out the offer, they fill out their address or email address, etc. Rodney, you're smiling. Yay, good. I thought, uh-oh, what am I doing wrong? So now I'm going to switch to seller 2. Undo sign here. Move my date where it needs to go. And actually, what I forgot to do, let's go back to seller 1 for a minute. We need to put in, hold on, where is it? Full name. Because this won't fill out on the offer you put it in on. It won't say seller 1 there. You'll never be using this document when on an offer. This is just creating the template. I'll show you on a blank offer. So let's go to seller 2. Oops, I flipped. I was already in seller 2. And full name. My auto time. Now, in this case, I make the text line. So I'm going to pull this over and click on it, not required, because they may not know their forwarding address yet. So if I have it required, they're going to have to put something in there. That's just how I set mine up. You can set it however you want. And then if I click also on that, not make it required, I can copy this and just paste it. So now all those that I paste in here are not required. And so once you click on the box, you'll have these options over here.
Okay.
And turn on and off required. So you can see these are required. Anything that has a red on it, those will not be. On the left side, I made them required. So there's at least what their current address is and at least one email address as a required field. But the signatures are required. Don't leave yet, Wendy. This is the best part. Maybe your assistants here will. Okay. Everybody got that so far? I don't want to go too fast. Because each of your people should be colored different ways.
The bottom left, under the yellow box, why is it blue?
Because I put the wrong person in there. Good catch. See, that's why it should be color coded. I need to go back to seller 1. Thank you for a good catch. See why I like it color coded and I even missed it. So thank you. Multitasking and teaching. No, yours were right. Good catch. Everybody got that? So now we're going to over here to layouts. See where it says layouts? You're going to go layout options and create layout. And name it. So I'm going to say sales contract only, seller. And just so that way I know what it is. However, you know how your layout is, and hit create and you should get a green check mark. However, you're going to know what it is. This is a sales contract only. And hit close. Page. I just hit back and save. I'm not going to send this for assigning to anybody. And then I have on here, create layouts for your amendments, finance amendment, any other form that you want to create a layout for. Sales contract change amendment. Usually buyers initiate that. So if that's how it happens, then you could create a layout for that. That one doesn't a lot because there's only dragging one signature, but this one has a lot of initials. I created one that has all of them together, the contract, financing, and the amendments. So I could apply it all. You know, you got to decide how you want to use this. So now when I'm doing an offer. Let me see if I can find, and I know what I can do. That should not have an offer on it. So just watch and I'll show you how it applies and then you can test it on your, do a test file or something. So this is, I'm going to go back to a listing file of mine. Okay, so I'm pretending this is my listing. I have one seller in here, so at least I have a seller in here, so that's fine. I'm going to create a signing. You know, accept an offer on whatever property. One thing I'm going to really encourage you to do is please name your signings. Otherwise, it just grabs a form or grabs one part of it, grabs part of the file name. Just get in that habit of naming your signings. And I'm going to hit save. For me, typically, I don't save the contract that the other agent sent me in my documents and transactions because until I have it rejected or whatever, I just don't have a duplicate in there. So I'm going to typically add and upload it, that I've saved that offer they sent me just in my documents on my computer or something like that. So I'll use this one because it should be blank. Yep, no seller's initials, anything like that on it. Okay. I'm going to click on signers. And select my seller. I only have one in this example. I'm going to go to layouts, layout options, and apply my layout. When I click on that, there's my sales contract only seller. Assign the layout, keep your fingers crossed. And all the initials should be in place. The signature blocks. And all of that. Do you love me now, Rodney?
No
So that's how you do it. And someone asked me, I don't remember who, it might have even been you, what's this layout button about? And I go, well, I don't know. And so I had a little bit of time and said, we're getting ready to do this advanced class. I'm going to learn how to use it. So experimented with it and played around. And so it doesn't say seller 1 or seller 2. It has my seller information in there. And like here, oh, because this was my template that said seller 1 on it, it wouldn't do that because the offer came from somebody else. It would just have my buyer, my seller's name there. Any questions? What do you guys think online? Yay? Okay. Yes, it takes some setup, but I think you will really, really like it.